Today's episode is sponsored by Flowdesk. If you're a creative business owner, you deserve tools that feel as thoughtful and well-designed as the work you put into the world. And let's be real, with ever-changing algorithms and unpredictable platforms, social media isn't exactly the most reliable place to build a business. That's why email marketing is still the MVP and has the highest return on investment of any marketing channel, and that's why we love Flowdesk. It's hands down the most intuitive, beautifully designed email platform I've ever used, and I've tried a lot. No clunky features, no coding, just stunning, high-converting emails your audience actually wants to open. With Flowdesk, you can grow your list using beautifully branded forms, set up automations that work while you sleep, and so much more. Plus, the pricing is flat rate, no matter how big your list gets. But honestly, the best part, you actually own your audience. No more worrying about whatever chaos is unfolding on social media this week. If you're ready to see what best-in-class email marketing can do for your business, try Flowdesk for free or use code Goodtype to get 50% off your first year. Thank you, Flowdesk, for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, we have the most special guest today. We're really excited because y'all have probably heard us talk about our beloved Emily, but I don't think anyone's actually heard her voice ever.
Emily, say something.
It's been a sec.
What's the first thing you want people to hear you say?
I like cheese.
But cheese doesn't like you.
Yeah.
No.
What would your favorite cheese be if you had to pick one to eat for the rest of your life?
The one that I'm not good at pronouncing, Roquefort?
I've never
I don't even know
heard
that
of it.
cheese. You're deep in the cheese game.
Wow.
I don't think so, but yeah.
You're not messing around.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know the specialty cheeses.
I wouldn't say it's special.
Is it a cow's cheese or a goat cheese or a sheep's cheese?
It's a sheep milk blue cheese.
Ew.
Really? That sounds delicious to me.
I only can have cow's milk cheese, and people try and slip me some other animal's milk cheeses, and they're like, she'll never notice. I can detect it. My palate
Probably
is sensitive.
because you're having a reaction.
Well, I love cow cheeses. Maybe not blue cheese as much, but most cow cheeses. But if it's a goat or sheep, I'm like, disgusting.
I don't think there's a cheese I don't like.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, I'm glad we started off with the important stuff.
Yeah, cheese first.
If you're
social media.
Who's Emily?
Yeah.
Emily has been working alongside us for, oh my God, since the dawn of time.
Since our Loomier days.
Yeah.
Deep
might be pretty close because you DM'd me the day before I got married, and today is our wedding anniversary.
Oh my God, wait, why are you recording a podcast on your wedding anniversary?
We're both working.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, so this
Happy
is
anniversary.
This is basically our anniversary as well.
Yeah,
then.
literally.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Did you respond on the day that she?
I was awake making my wooden flower bouquets when Alana messaged me, and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry if I'm quiet. I'm getting married tomorrow." And she was like, "Don't answer me."
Yeah.
That
Stop
sounds like
answering.
Alana. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How cute.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we get to spend it with you.
Yeah, to all of us, everyone in the room.
Yeah, we should all exchange gifts and champagne or something. It's so
Okay,
romantic.
so before we were working with you, can you talk a little bit about what your career trajectory was, and then we'll talk about what you do at Goodtype?
Yeah. So basically, I kind of started in the realm of virtual assisting, and then kind of fell into my love of marketing from there, because I am a Jane of all trades. So
Yeah.
I kind of just love to do all the things. But one of my clients, it was heavy marketing, and I went to school for graphic design. So a lot of the content creation I was doing kind of just mixed those worlds, and I loved it. So from there, I kind of strategically sought out photographers and other creatives to work with because I just knew the industry best. And yeah, so I was working with mostly photographers when I saw your Instagram story for Loomier looking for a marketing person in the design industry. And I was like, should I message?
Yes.
Or...
Yes.
Like,
Always
why not?
yes.
Shoot my shot.
Yeah. Awesome. I love
Thank
that.
goodness you did.
Yeah.
Or else
glad.
we wouldn't be here chatting about cheese today.
Yeah.
What a travesty that would be.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so when we started working together at Loomier, which was like when Katie and I had first started working together, we really were looking for a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades because
A Jill for sure. Get
for
out of here,
sure.
Jax.
Yeah. I think the thing about like when you're kind of, I mean, I say we're self-employed, but we also like are business owners, but you know, Katie and I are self-employed and yeah. And so we have a hard time giving up control, but we also need someone to be able to like execute, like a lot of it's design, but it's also marketing. And so there's like so much overlap. And I feel like we were basically like, is there any unicorns out there in the audience? And if so, let us know. And so, yeah, we were so glad to hear from you. And that was so many years ago. And now you still do all the things, pretty much anything we can think of and ask you if you want to take on. You're like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank goodness that we have you because it feels like an extra limb.
Good.
Which
I aim to be an extra limb.
Which is what we need. So yeah, how would you describe your job with us at Goodtype? Ooh, I just went out of focus. Okay, now I'm back.
I think mostly like content creation, and then like one step back further, it's kind of everything. Like
No.
I'm
a
in
little
email,
bit of everything.
I'm in editing the podcast now, so yeah. I think
you'll edit your own episode.
That's like
so
I'm gonna have
meta.
to listen to my voice.
Yeah, that's a whole thing when you edit yourself. It's like, oh, this is really up close and personal with me, myself, and I. But yeah, and you're like the Notion queen, which is another wonderful place that you help us organize because Notion's what we use to organize our whole business and our brains and everything. And you actually made a Notion template for designers that we sell in our shop as well. You've like literally done it. You help us with the Kern friends. You're literally there in the comments constantly and doing all the back end things and setting up the games and talking with our partners and our sponsors. And
this is now a love letter to Emily.
I know. I don't know what to do with my hands.
You're like saying a lot of nice things on me.
But
reason
I just wanted to give people a full picture of you and Goodtype.
Yeah.
In the weeds.
Yeah, you're for sure in the weeds and like you're always so up for a challenge and to figure something out. Like you said, I think that's like a personality trait of people who are Jill or Jacks of all trades is that they're very curious and ready to learn. And that's been really amazing for us. But the reason we wanted to talk was because, you know, one of our last episodes was about the 30-day challenge we did. And we learned a lot about, on Instagram. And we learned so much about like what feels good to us, what works for each of us. And you've been able to like see trends. Like I'm always asking you for validation when I have an idea on something because I'm like, she's actually in there in the weeds. Seeing the analytics, like figuring things out. So we wanted to talk about social media and how things have changed from having like you managed our account when it was really, really small. Now it's really big, whole different set of issues and some of the same issues. Katie, where should we start?
I guess let's start with Loomier and transition into Goodtype to just kind of like talk about what that looked like. And I think we're going to approach this from like, let's chat about what we've noticed, you know, running an account that has 1 million followers, but also like what are more practical things for people with like smaller accounts or different types of accounts on Instagram, and like what are some takeaways from how to best utilize Instagram in the current landscape. So let's start first with the transition to Goodtype. Unless
I want to share a disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
This is not. We're not having Emily come on here and tell you what to do for your page. We're sharing our personal experience. Take what you want from it. Feel free to like experiment with it. We're not up here saying this is what's happening today for us and what happened in the past for us. This is not like trend predictions or, data from other accounts.
The future. Yeah.
Well, certainly not us. So just want to like preface that by this is based on our experience.
Sure.
And you know, Emily works with other people as well. And we're talking about our personal experience. So I just want to preface that.
Okay. So like Alana said, we started as Loomier, where it was Alana and I teaching about business, but we were basically starting from scratch, building an audience. So Emily was along for the beginning of that ride, which it wasn't the longest ride because we got the opportunity to take over Goodtype pretty soon into the Loomier journey. And thank God, because our name was terrible and we got to ditch it pretty soon on. And yeah, so we ended up going from building this audience from complete scratch to running an Instagram account that had like 1.1 million followers. So Emily, can you talk a little bit about like when we brought that to you and we were like, hey, we have this opportunity to take over Goodtype, like what was that like? What was running through your head? What thoughts did you have about how you were thinking we could tackle that?
I think the biggest difference going from Loomier, which I think almost hit 5,000 followers, to Goodtype is that Loomier was very feminine. It was a very feminine brand.
Yeah.
And then to move to Goodtype, it's still 50-50 down the line. So that I think was the biggest change, was going from such a feminine brand to 50-50. I think other than that, like it was cool on Loomier because you notice a lot of names really quickly. Like you pick up on the community and you start to know these people. So then when we became Goodtype, it was cool to see those similar names come through, but also like, bigger names would comment on things and it'd be like, I don't know if you know it's me behind the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like you went from getting to know these people to like most of the people now we don't know.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And it's just because there's so many, because Instagram's weird and doesn't show you all the comments all the time. Like if you hit a certain amount of comments, like you can't scroll forever.
Yeah.
It's really weird. That and the shift in content creation and now who are we talking to? Because I think Loomier was primarily art licensing too, and all the other stuff because price with purpose and all that. But yeah, it was a big shift to like now have to talk to a huge audience that is used to inspiration all the time and kind of pivoting to like also education, but also monetizing and not pissing everyone off.
Yeah, that was a huge conversation that we had in the beginning, was like, okay, Goodtype, Instagram has notoriously been this platform of sharing really great art from other creators. Yeah. And that's how it really grew such a huge following. And it was like the perfect time on Instagram that the landscape of Instagram was much more friendly to that kind of a platform. And so it was able to grow this crazy following, but they certainly did not expect us to come in and be like, here's courses for sale, here's education, here's all this like new stuff. So we were talking a lot in the beginning about how to do that transition and how to build trust with the audience who had never seen our faces, who we were going to start saying like, we're still bringing inspiration, we're bringing education, and now we're also like monetizing something. That's definitely a hard pill to swallow. So yeah.
And it came right after COVID. Like this conversation was like 6 months into COVID, and like it was made official about 9 months into COVID. And so the whole landscape of everything pre-pandemic was completely shifted. Not only the way we use social media, but like people started to understand what digital marketing looks like because they were just served it so often that they like could see through it. And so everything changed after the pandemic. So just an interesting like climate to dive into, I think.
Totally. And I bet people would be curious to hear when we were initially evaluating the Goodtype Instagram and looking at like what are we walking into and talking about that whole takeover deal with the original founder Bodhi. What are some of the things that you do to evaluate an Instagram account? Like how healthy it is, how like what are the numbers that you are looking at in the first place?
Yeah, so I think for us it was important to understand, because the account had so many followers, we wanted to know how many of them were active, and also like spam accounts do exist and you don't have to buy them to gain them. Like spam just works like spam. So I think that was the biggest thing we were concerned about, is like, is it 1.1 million active followers or
just a bunch of robots?
Yeah, how many accounts like logged off forever, how many are spam? So that was like the biggest thing, was to try and understand that through the engagement rate. So those I think were the two biggest things that were looked at. And then I think otherwise it was like, how often posts were going out, like just to see like if it's a stale account, and if we start posting again, will a bunch of people drop off? That type of thing I think was the most important.
Something really interesting about that is, so like now you can go into your account and you can say like get rid of like bot followers. Like I don't remember what the like terminology is, but we tried to do that on Goodtype and it was just like not there or there were none. And we were like, that's obviously not true.
Yeah.
But it was, I don't know if it's like they treat bigger platforms differently, but we couldn't figure out why it just like wasn't the same as on our personal pages.
Yeah, we just didn't have the option to remove them, and I don't know why, because we all like logged into our own accounts and we
so I'm sure they're there. I think they're on every single account, and I'm sure they just rebuild. But we couldn't figure that one out. Another question people actually ask me all the time more recently is if we paid for our blue check, and we did not. Bodhi got verified early on, I think, and probably just due to the size of the account and the way it was growing. And I feel like nowadays, the way people grow, it's just totally different. I think the thing that we got really lucky with is that the account grew not because of virality. The account grew because people saw something that didn't exist anywhere else, and it was a community and a way to get featured. People got eyes on their work. Like we've had so many people come up to us and say like Bodhi had reposted their work and it led to like the job that helped their like catapult their career.
So cool.
Yeah, Bodhi was doing something before other people were doing it. She filled a gap in the industry. And so I don't know that that's happening so much anymore. There are so many more users on the platform. There's still so much creativity on the platform, but people are really growing their account by either like a consistency over a really long time, or I think from virality, which doesn't have the legs to like build a sustainable business, unless it's like for a product that is mind blowing or something. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Well, people also just digest content so differently now that we are so exposed to it, and we have been for many, many years. And Alana and I, we were talking in our episode where we were digesting what happened in our 30-day challenge about, some of the trends that the content trends that were getting more responses and likes and saves and shares than others. And I've noticed in my own content scrolling that it takes more for me to give out a response than it used to. I used to, be like, oh, wow, this is so cool. Like now sometimes I'll think it in my head and keep scrolling, which I need to revise that, I think. But I think I said in our previous podcast, like a lot of us feel entitled to content because there's so much at our fingertips that we just don't give it the praise necessarily that we're thinking in our heads. And also we noticed that a lot of it was coming not from likes like it used to, but more in the saves and the shares.
I was going to say, I share things way more than I do anything else.
Totally. Or like reposting it to your stories with shares. Emily, have you noticed that same trend, and like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely share more, and I still do like, but I think that's because we know the back end of it. And but I will say that I think TikTok and the way that people use TikTok and know how TikTok's algorithm works, that has kind of muddled everywhere else on the social media world. Because I know for me, I'll see something and laugh at it, but I don't necessarily want to see it again in my feed. And I'll keep scrolling. Fair. And I think we kind of picked up on the algorithm that TikTok has for that. And now it's the same way over on Instagram, where we're kind of trained not to engage the same way for whatever reason.
It's interesting.
There's frustrated creators on the other side.
Right.
We're the best
like,
of both
dang
worlds.
it. Come on.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I was talking to my friend who uses TikTok and Instagram, and she was saying she sees a lot of someone's content but doesn't necessarily follow them because she just wants to be served what the algorithm thinks she'll like, and she doesn't need to see someone's like everyday. Like I think especially if you're talking about influencer culture, which like Katie and I would never say that we're influencers, because our page isn't to influence people. Our page is education. Our page is community. It's not about like sharing about us personally. And so I think also you can have impact without influence. Like they are a gray area, but I think that term now is associated with like a specific thing. But she was saying like she's going to let the algorithm give her the content that she thinks will resonate, because she knows that not everything someone posts is going to resonate, but also that she doesn't need to be like that close to someone where she's seeing all of their stories and she's seeing all of their content, but only the videos like that feel the algorithm has deemed worthy for her based on her other preferences. And I thought, what a cool approach to like basically only get for you.
Yeah.
And then let it dictate based on how you interact with it. And so, yeah, detaching ourselves from the like vanity metrics has been very helpful, and then using them as data for sure. Love that for us.
Yeah. I want to real quickly, you mentioned our blue check, and I was thinking that people might be wondering, should I fork out, how much is it for a blue check now, that if you can like pay for it? And can you still get it without paying for it? Like, what's the deal? Do you know, Emily?
I think you still can like request a blue check without paying for it if you're like, you know, someone famous that people can create spam accounts and pretend to be you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like a long and winded road, and you kind of have to have proof, I think. Like you need like...
I think you have to have specific press.
Yeah, exactly. Like in news articles or whatever the modern day thing is. But...
And the point of it was like for security, so people would know like this is the right person. But
then it became like a status symbol.
And I've heard from everyone I know who's paid for it that it's not been worth it for them. And like, I didn't do it, so I can't say that, but they've just said like, even if I want to get customer support, it's still a pain in the butt.
Well, yeah, I heard that most people that I knew that were paying for it were doing it because at the time, like, it was going around that like people's accounts were getting hacked. I mean, every day they're getting hacked, but specifically it was like that fear of getting hacked and losing your account that made them buy the blue check mark. But then they knew someone who did that, and her account got hacked with the blue check mark, and she couldn't reach out to support anyway. So it was like,
so
what
what's
are
the
you
point?
paying for? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's just buying into this, like, it's just feeding the beast even more, unfortunately. And I'm not sure it was the right solution. But if someone has had a good experience, I'd be really curious. I no longer care if someone has a blue check because of knowing that it's like, before I used to be like, oh, they have a blue check, like they must have some articles, they must have some press, they must, like, regardless of if they had a lot of followers or not.
Yeah.
Because I would get really excited when I saw someone with very few followers but a blue check. Like, I'm like, they might be a published author. That doesn't mean that they have to be big online. And so now I like don't look. When we started, I feel like it got us into people's DMs. And now I don't think it does anything.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the reality of what it's like to actually run a million?
Yeah, I think probably.
We're gonna pull the veil away and show that it's not what you think. What are some of the things that you realized, Emily or Alana, when we first took the reins at Goodtype and really saw what the engagement looked like, what it looked like to run a 1 million person account?
Yeah. Let me just preface it by saying that the account had been sort of stagnant for a bit. And that was Bodhi was looking for, like, she was ready to move on. And also we love Bodhi and we're very close with her. And she's like our biggest cheerleader, and us to her as well. So, but she wasn't sure what to do with the account and the pandemic. So the account had been stagnant. So I just want to like preface with like, we're coming in and trying to revive an account sort of. So yeah, Emily, I know you probably recognized a lot, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think in the beginning we were trying to keep up with what Bodhi had happening on the Goodtype account. So like guest curators and what that looked like, and like account takeovers and what that looked like, and trying to keep up with that end of it so that we could start introducing our type of content after being stagnant. It was just a funny pickle because
funny pickle.
I just feel like in trying to revive it, like we weren't seeing engagement on any of the stuff that we wanted to, and people were just trained to really engage with the reposts, which is fine. but it was hard already to try and push somewhat educational through the guest curator posts,
Yeah.
and then also try and educate on like, you know, monetization and the products that we had to offer.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is that I expected the DMs to be like, or like story responses to be like flooded all the
Overwhelming.
time.
Yeah.
And they are
Same.
literally quite the opposite. And I think that's because, and we had to keep reminding ourselves this, is like there was never a human attached to it. Like Bodhi did such a great job of making it never about her work. And so that's why it's also been really cool to watch her go and flourish with her art, because you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was what was behind it all. And so, yeah, we're definitely not flooded. And when I think about stories that I respond to, like Goodtype has been positioned as a brand and a community, and I'm not going to respond to a brand's DMs. I'm going to respond to a human's DMs and their stories and like the personal connection. And so we really had to understand and come to terms with the fact that the positioning, and decide if we wanted to keep it that way, of like, do we want to show up and let people into our lives this deeply? And the answer is continuously no. The answer is we want human connection and like real connection, but not necessarily in stories and daily updates. And I remember one time my gym tagged Goodtype in a post, and I was like, I was offline during that time, and Emily was like, do you want me to repost it to stories, like just showing what you're doing in the morning? And I was like, yeah, that'd be okay. And she was like, but just so you know, then everyone on this page will know which gym you go to. Like, because it's like a local, you know. And I was like, no, it's not a local gym, but I just, because we didn't know, and we have not had any issues with like safety and security, but I was like, wait, no, definitely don't do that.
I've seen a little bit too much of the funny stuff on the internet, so I was like,
yeah, no, I'm so glad you asked me that, because no, I don't. But neither Katie nor I or Emily want to be influencers where we're actually sharing like very detailed information about our personal lives.
Yeah, and it also feels like that's not what I'm looking for when I log on to Goodtype's feed. I don't really want to see somebody at the gym.
You don't?
So I feel like it makes sense that we, you know, share a little bit of ourselves, but not necessarily like our gym habits.
Well, I think
we do that was like personal.
We do. And I think for me, it was trying to figure out what's the balance of adding humanity to our brand and making sure people know. A lot of people assumed we were like a 20-person team for some reason, which like, I don't know where they would get that idea, but people just assumed because a big following means a big business, but like we're a very lean business. And I think it was constantly for me going back and forth between, do we want to add that humanity in this way? And your ego often is like, yeah, share everything, get in there, let's do that. But ultimately, no, we want to keep
my ego goes the other way. I'm like, oh, I'm scared to show up that much. And
I get that too. And so it was like a constant very fluid conversation of like what feels good, and how do we add that humanity to the brand without it being ever about us. Like we don't share, even now we don't share a lot of our artwork because that's not the point.
Well, that's a discussion we've been having too, because we did open a Goodtype studio this year, which is where Alana and I are collaborating to make art, because we've really, really missed that. And kind of going into this education space, we felt like, oh, we want to return to our roots and do some of this stuff to really make us happy. And
I don't think we ever intended to let go of that. It just was that we got busy. Like we didn't set out to do that.
But it's definitely a question mark of like how much of that feels right to share on the Goodtype page when they signed up for something totally different when they pressed follow originally. So it's like, okay, what's the right amount to share about that, and how much is gonna be relevant? And you know, so that's been an ongoing discussion, and we'll probably just continue evolving how we show up in that way. But we do that too.
And something that we need to be like really transparent with is that and Katie and Emily both continuously take me off the ledge on this one, but naturally when, like Katie just said, people pressed follow for a different account basically than it is today, because we're introducing new things. We're trying to retain as much as we can and make sure the vision is always there. Like we talked a lot when we took over about like what are the core values, what's important to retain, what can be shifted. And so naturally people are going to leave. Just like on any account, people are going to be like, this no longer serves me. It's not like a bad thing, but of course it can feel sad, I guess. And so we knew we would lose followers, and we were constantly reminding ourselves that we don't need more than 1 million followers. Like, we don't need, the goal is not to get like everyone in the world to learn from us and be part of our community. But we also don't want to lose that many followers. And we have.
No,
we've lost followers, of course. That's all.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I don't have any feelings about it really. Like, I feel totally fine. And
I love that.
I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, I mean, 1 million is a really hard number to even fathom. And so I think I'm just like, there's plenty of people tuning in. And if we even got a fraction of them to be true followers and like true fans of Goodtype and like really constantly engaging, then that's so much more than we even need to run a really successful brand. And it goes back to our mission too. Like, is it to reach as many people as possible?
Yeah.
Not really. It's to reach the people that really need that push to be able to learn how to run their own businesses or like have just a little bit of extra help or community. So we really want to target those right people, not all the people.
And it's such a niche when you think about it. Like, we're talking about
niche.
hand lettering graphic designers who want to work for themselves, and like, it's art licensing alone is really, really niche. And so it's like, we have a ton of people here, and it's totally okay if not everything we do resonates with them or if it no longer serves them. But yeah, it's like a constant conversation of what's our mission. We're like constantly coming back to that. And I feel like also detaching from our vanity metrics has been really huge, because you would think a bigger account means more engagement. But Emily, have you found that to be true?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
I think it depends, because there are some posts that like hit, and for whatever reason, that's the one, whether we just got a good amount of engagement really quickly so that it hits the explore page and then it pops off from there. Or we could repost literally the same piece of content and hear crickets. So it's just kind of funny that way. I will say that I think in terms of followers, we kind of got hit by Instagram a little bit from not being able to repost, like specifically repost others' work. And like, that is how Goodtype started, was a repost account. So I think a lot of people were like, what am I looking at? when we had to go however many months of not reposting, because Instagram said it would like slap us on the hands if we did. Which is fine, because the idea was that it would help the original creator get found and not the big accounts, which we agree with. But it was just very vague instructions, so we didn't know how to continue lifting other artists up without like losing that reach too.
Right, because that defeats the purpose if like we don't have any reach, because the post gets like, I'm going to say shadow banned. I know that's not the right actual term, but basically they said, if you repost, we're going to mark it as like a red flag, and we're not going to push this post out. And if you do it 3 times, you're in violation of this, because they were trying to protect creators. Yeah. And we're like, well, we're also trying to get creators more eyes on their work. And so it was like, we just started redoing it again, because we just noticed that other accounts were not getting violations. And so we encouraged people to do collab posts with us, and we could accept based on our schedule and what we thought would resonate with our audience most. But we're starting to do it again, and just like kind of saying like, who cares? Like, if we get a violation, what's going to happen? Like, we're going to slap our wrists. Like, I don't, okay, fine. Slap it. I don't care. So yeah, it's like a constant I know, Katie, you're so good at like not having like the emotion tied into it. And then like Emily is coming in, and her job is to support us here. And so she's coming in with like analytical information and strategic information. And then like, I'm coming in with a, like, not ego as in like a big head, but like your ego is like your how else do you describe it?
Your emotion is tied to it.
Yeah. And so I'm like, wait, everybody hates us, or is everyone going to hate us, or people want to see, and so we all have to like balance each other out, and we're kind of specific hats in this. And I think, it's just, we're constantly in conversation about social.
Yeah. Luckily, there haven't been like a crazy amount of haters, because that's another thing people ask all the time is like, oh, with an account like that's that size, do you got
Yeah,
a lot
what are
of
they going to hate on
trolls?
us for? Like
Well,
posting cute art?
yeah, they find things,
Yeah.
but it's not like a constant barrage of trolls. But one of my favorite things is watching Emily in the comments, or sometimes like
So
I'll go
good.
into the comments too. And I've been telling this to everybody, but it was so funny.
Literally, she was so proud.
Somebody was commenting on our carousel post that we did about the 30 days of Instagram, and we had like little pie charts and cute little analytics all in a graphic form, and somebody was like, this pie chart is not correct because and so Emily went in there and she was like, oh my God, thank you so much for pointing that out. I'm gonna get with our pie chart team right this minute. We'll get this all sorted out. It just made me laugh so much because yeah, people get so nitty gritty. Like we've had people, find the tiniest little typos and just be so upset about it, so like deeply personally hurt about it. We're like, what do you do all day?
Yeah.
Why are you concerned about this?
I think that attitude is like the biggest thing, though. The attitude of like, it's not that serious. Like, I know there are people who make a livelihood on social media, and like that is their that's not it for us.
Yeah. I think we only had one scenario that was actually really concerning where we had trolls, and that was with a pride post, but it was like literally the message was like, be yourself.
Yeah.
And people,
it was so simple.
And people in the comments were like, unfollow,
so
like, can't believe that you're promoting this kind of thing. But the great thing about it was that we posted about it on like our personal accounts, and we were like, y'all, look what's happening. Like, can you y'all rally and show this artist? Can you show this artist that this isn't how the majority of people feel and that they're like safe here? And everybody flooded into the comments with positivity, and it was so heartening to see that. So that it actually turned into a good experience, for sure. I think, in the end. But yeah, definitely I was holding my breath when I saw those things come in, just like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I think that's like the downside of 1 million followers too, is that like, I mean, it's a great thing to, everyone has their own opinions and their own lifestyles and whatever, but the toxic part of it like is not Goodtype. Like we do not invite toxic people or hate in any form.
Get out.
So like if we see an unfollow drop because of that, like great. We did not want
you here. I think people also talk differently when they see an account is that big in the comments. They don't think of it as like people human run or something, and so they feel like there's more barrier between what they say and they're like speaking to a corporation or something, when really it's like 3 ladies behind the screen that are like rude,
trying our best.
How rude. I for sure I don't necessarily wish virality on anyone. And I wonder if maybe, Emily, you can talk about like from your experience, like I think everyone wants to grow their account because more eyes on your work, but I don't think we've ever had a post go viral. And by viral, I mean more people seeing it than followers. We don't even get we get like 10% of our followers.
Is that the definition?
That's what I'm saying. Like for me to say something viral, I'm saying if you have 500 followers and 10,000 people see it, that's very viral for you. Because that's like tons of new people seeing it. But for us, I mean, I don't know the actual data, but we barely get 100,000 people seeing our posts. And so we're not building on virality. And I feel like there's a lot of longevity in that, and a lot more opportunity. Like I'm not upset about it, but I guess, do you have advice for people who are like, I really want to go viral, I really want to grow my account? What would be your like couple tips to share with them?
Well, I think first I would ask, like, why do we want to go viral? Because if the goal is to gain more followers, cool, then that's one thing. But if the goal is to make money and to be sustainable, like that is a totally different ballpark. That going viral or not, like being viral won't help you. So that's where I'd start. But if you want to create content that reaches more people, there's a few things you can do. I know right now Instagram is kind of funny with reels, and it's putting a lot of energy into carousels. So like now you can post 20 slides in a carousel instead of just 10. You can add audio to a carousel that actually puts your carousel on like the Reels algorithm. So I think it's kind of just like figure out what your current audience is enjoying. And then once you hit that sweet spot, find a way to replicate it without like copy pasting, because the more energy that hits into a post, the sooner, the more it'll go. So like our recent post, it was the last day that the Price with Purpose flash sale was going. And that post was really like in my head, like a last chance reminder, post to go out. And that one freaked out. So many people shared it.
What post was that?
What
was it about?
It was about like, how much artists are paid.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kicked off because people were sharing it. So shareable and savable, which I think we've said already, but shareable and savable content is like what's ticking the algorithm right now.
Yeah. That's what we found in our 30-day challenge when we posted every day for 30 days. We found that the content where we were just sharing our art, like, here's a greeting card I made, people were like, cool. Not that I'm not getting that much out of it, but like, good for you. And then when Alana posted an inspirational quote that she'd lettered or something that really resonated with people, where they were like, oh, I'm going to repost
it's
this
still
to my
getting
stories
shares.
or send it to a friend. Like, that's so cool. But they were like, okay, I see it's her work, but this is something that resonates with me as well. So it's like creating that content that feels authentic to you, but also your audience feels like they're really getting something.
Yeah. I just pulled the post up. It's here's what other designers are charging for their work. And it has more saves than likes. We have 6.7 thousand
and that's a really
saves.
common trend these days, right?
Yeah. Because people, for whatever reason, aren't public. They don't want to be public about their engagement. But it's funny too, because like DM automations are a thing now too, where everyone's commenting the keyword. So it's like, why will you engage with it one way and say, hey, send me this thing, but not drop a like?
Right.
It's so funny.
It is. Yeah. It's really interesting. And I think looking at it,
we should all be studied. Yeah. We are being studied, I think.
Yeah.
Literally constantly.
Yeah. It's just been really interesting. And I think one of the things people tell us they have the most struggle with is like, how do they actually create the content? And I think our 30 days was a good example of like, you don't have to create content that's just content. Like, you should be creating your work and then seeing how you can repurpose that as content, whether it's you saying, here are the 6 new greeting cards I designed. And then remembering that like, that's not going to go viral. Like, why would that go viral? And I mean, if it does, great, wonderful. Please tell me all about it. But like, maybe the right person will see it. And like,
right. And that's all you need. You need a client to see it and go, I'm going to hire you. And what if it's like a $10,000 gig that you got from one post that got 30 likes on it?
Well,
that's the real metric.
You had said that neither of you went viral in your 30-day challenge, but you got 3 leads, I think you said. And like, if all 3 book, why did you need to go viral? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they all booked. They all, not only did they all book, but like, they literally wrote us to work together. And yeah, you're right. You just have to constantly like be reminded of, why are you creating content? The other thing I think was really interesting, I don't know, Emily, if you said this to me or you sent me an article or something, but it was like, consistency doesn't mean posting every day. Consistency means you could post once a week, every week. And so I think people also are like, well, I need to be more consistent. Well, more consistent doesn't mean more output. It just means not missing a week.
Yeah.
I don't know why I always thought more and more and more.
Someone has shared that it's like a farmer planting seeds. The more seeds you plant, the more opportunities you have.
Yeah.
But like, what opportunities will you have if you plant all your seeds in one day and then you burned out and you didn't go outside and water them because you didn't want to do it anymore?
Or like it was a torrential, if it was like a torrential downpour that day and then all of your seeds, like
fried them. Yeah.
That's a really good metaphor.
Right? So it's like, I think we need to put less emphasis on creating content and just like sharing. Like you said, carousels are doing really well. I'm not totally sure why, but then just post your art in 3 different colors and then people will start to recognize you for your art.
Yeah.
Can I do like a more rapid fire style? Like, I ask you about a certain part of Instagram and you give your thoughts on it. Like, hashtags.
Fun. Yeah, hashtags, the old rule was 30 max and get really niche or community hashtags or whatever it is. And now that's not the case. I've still seen that you could still use 30 hashtags on Instagram. On Facebook, if you try to use more than 5, they get like grayed out. It's just text. It's not
Interesting.
like blue, like a hyperlinked hashtag. So I think that means that Instagram will soon, if not already, have that too. So yeah, 5 or less hashtags, and they're really just used to let Instagram know what the content is about. But I think it's more important now that Instagram posts are being pushed to like search engines like Google, that your caption should sneak some keywords in, and not like forcefully, not at the bottom of your posts, like that's spammy and Google is smart. But yeah, especially Instagram just started testing a new feature where it'll show at the bottom of the graphic of the post, like a search, like TikTok does, where it's like search and it gives a keyword.
Oh, interesting.
So I think it's also not just search engines we're worried about, it's also how Instagram is now filtering their posts and sharing them.
Helpful.
I love seeing the, like, on TikTok, the search bar, because you're like, oh, there's drama between these people, or it's like pregnancy announcement. And you're like, this is not a pregnancy announcement. What does it know?
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting. Okay, keep going, Katie.
Yeah.
Great.
Instagram Live.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah, you can still go live.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they push it to like new followers, non-followers anymore. So I
We
think
got crickets when we used to do it, but that was also like 2 years ago, maybe 3.
Yeah. I've only seen one creator that I genuinely follow within the last year go live, and she quickly stopped, and she would go live every day just to answer questions.
Oh my god.
And it was very helpful. It was fun to listen in, but I think people have podcasts now to do that with.
Yeah.
So if you're not
probably not a
actively
place anyone should be concentrating too much.
Yeah, I think there's other places you could go live and see better results.
Yeah. Collaborative posts.
Love them. I have seen that. I think Instagram suggested to have the bigger account start the post and invite out for best reach, which kind of stinks because as a small creator, you don't want to hear that.
Right.
But for us, it was really helpful to see that, because now we get to repost others' work and invite them as collaborators. So it really helps the creators now, because we don't have to hope that people will see the caption or the tag. Like, it'll show up and it'll connect the two and help the smaller creators profile and reach.
I have a question. How do you keep up with, like, managing? How do you keep up with posting, answering comments, like all of it? How would you tell someone to like budget their time on the app? Like, I know you want to engage on other people's accounts, but yeah, how do you, I mean, you are doing it all day. So do you have any like boundaries for yourself that help?
Yeah, I think it's always best when you go to post something, if you're posting manually and not using a scheduler, to engage before posting and then engage after posting. That way it's kind of built in, you're stacking your time and you're not like forcing yourself to be on all day. And then also in doing that, the idea is that it helps boost your posts, because now that you're active, other people are getting notifications, they're hitting the platform and hopefully seeing your post in their feed. So I think building it around when you post is a good start. Otherwise, like before I was in it all day, I would do like once in the morning and once in the evening. Maybe at lunch, if I'm scrolling, I'll pop in and make sure there's nothing on fire. But yeah, I think fitting it into your schedule in a way that's not like you're getting stuck doom scrolling is probably
time.
Yeah, I think that's the trap. Is like going on with intention and then logging off, and not just like picking it up when you're just like bored, I think is a big one.
Yeah.
What about stories? What do you think about them, and like how many to post and when? Does it matter?
So less is more with stories right now. They are, I believe Instagram is changing the algorithm right now, because before I would post something just like a post to stories and it would not do well. It would hurt reach, and then it would take a bit to bring reach back up or views back up before doing something again. Where now you can repost like a reel and it takes up the full screen instead of just being that like weird block in the middle with ugly gradients. And now like I'm seeing there's an account that I run that has like 8,000 followers, and it went from like 50 people are viewing the story to over 600, 700, 800, which is a huge jump for a small account for just reposting reels. So that was interesting.
So does that officially count as a view? Do you know if somebody's watching a reel in somebody's story, it'll show up in the analytics of the post as a view?
Yeah, I believe it counts as views. So I managed an account where they really wanted to post like 8 to 10 slides a day, like no questions asked. And you know me, I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then we do it. I'm like, hey, views are down a lot. Can we try something else? And then we do, and it's back up. So I think 3 max, unless it's like content that people are going to vibe with. If you're showing like your walk and things like that, like some people aren't going to want to watch that and then they drop off. And when people like skip instead of like clicking through all of your slides, that's telling Instagram your content isn't interesting, and then it's hurting your reach. So definitely less is more. And the more text on a story, the better, because it retains someone to read and tap and pause. So either doing something like that with like a link sticker or a React sticker, making it easy for people to engage, that will help reach on stories.
What about reposting content you make on TikTok as reels on Instagram?
I think that's totally fine, but you don't want the TikTok watermark. I believe Instagram can kind of see that as spammy and hurt your views, or people see it and don't see it as high quality content and then they don't engage, and then that hurts your views.
So it's a lose-lose. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you download it in that way, yeah.
It's interesting though, because I think like every instance we're talking about, I can think of an exception to the rule. And I think it's just so important to remember that like, that's it. Like, that's why I wanted to preface this by being like, this is our experience. And like Emily does a lot of research on this and like keeps up with all the like updates and the trends and things like that. And she's looking at analytics all the time, but like you're always going to see an exception to the rule. And I do think influencers are also the exception to the rule. Like they're magnetic people that somehow like have built this like cult like following where people will watch everything they do and then think that they're best friends with them. And so it's like,
and a lot of them sell their soul to get these kind
and
of
they're documenting
and they're
everything,
not enjoying it, or you know there's so many more factors to consider. For sure.
I can't even imagine like sitting down to a meal and recording myself eating and like being present, or like in the shower. I mean, I'm watching them and I'm like,
I mean, I record myself in the shower, but I don't post it anywhere.
I was gonna say, there's like
you post it on a different platform.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a video of Alana in the shower that we did for a brand partnership.
Oh yeah, yes. There literally is.
Fully clothed as a joke, and I feel like we got a lot of comments on that one, actually. Maybe I'll do it again.
We did. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to open a Goodtype OnlyFans next. It's going to be
OnlyFans.
It's going to be holding OnlyFans. Yeah, I feel like we've come up with that before. It's going to be just us holding like large signs or like type or something and like covered in whipped cream.
Oh, God.
Okay, sounds good.
No, it's just a reminder that like there's an exception to every... There's an exception to every rule, and like ultimately like what feels good is the most important for sure. But I will that's helpful.
End that thought with things that work for Goodtype don't work for smaller accounts, and the things that work for the smaller accounts don't work for Goodtype.
Yeah, definitely don't work for us.
And yeah, like you said, that everyone is different and everyone's audience is different. And if it's not working for you, it's not going to work for your audience. So you kind of have to find that balance of what do you like? What does your audience like? And keep pushing into that. And if you can create more around it, cool. Or you might see more unfollows if you're posting more. Then, follow your data and, stay in tune with what you want.
I love that.
And what feels authentic, because at the end of the day, if we feel gross about Instagram, we're going to burn out so fast.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we've felt that. So.
Something else I think is really, really interesting, and then we can wrap up, is that when you're talking to someone who like maybe they're in a different space than you, or maybe you just like haven't run in the same circles, and you're like, do you follow this person? It's like the best feeling when you're like, oh, that's right, the world is huge. They're like, I've never heard of that person. And in their head, they're like, that's the most influential person to me on the internet or something. And it's like just a reminder that like it's all like a silly little game. Like, I love when I meet someone and they're like, no, I've never followed that person or something. I'm like, wow, that is so niche. Like, oh, I follow them for their cleaning hacks or their toe videos. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's just the world is so small, and so there's room for everybody, and there's like you'll find what feels good for you, and it's just a little.
I think everything that we've said is just a really good reminder to not to put all your eggs in the Instagram basket, especially not right now. We don't know what's happening with social media platforms. We don't know when one's going to go away. We don't know when your account is going to go down or get hacked, and Instagram's not going to be around to help you. So there's so many reasons that point to diversifying your online presence, your in-person presence, your relationships with people, and prioritizing things outside of just this one social platform is always a good idea.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Any other questions for her?
I think we better wrap up, or this is going to be our longest episode. I think it's been so helpful I hope it's been helpful for people to hear the realities and the behind the scenes, and perhaps some nice takeaways. And I'm so glad that we got to introduce you to the Goodtype fam. You've been such a part of it, but not your face. So I'm sure they enjoyed you. You're a delight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And everyone who's listening, we would just absolutely love it if you would go ahead and leave us a comment on a review. That's what we mean. A review on whatever platform you're listening on. It would just mean the world to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
all
thank
right.
you.
All good things.
Bye.